My role at the University of Chicago Crime Lab is the founding executive director, which means that I helped to launch this research and policy center at the University of Chicago, working with our faculty and all of our staff, and generating lots of partnerships with the public sector and with nonprofits across the country, working on the issues that we work on, which are reducing gun violence and improving fairness and justice in the criminal justice system. The Crime Lab is an independent research center based at the University of Chicago at the Harris School of Public Policy. And what we do is work pro bono with the public sector and with nonprofits to try to generate better evidence about what works for whom and why when we're trying to reduce things like gun violence, but also improve the fairness and justice of the criminal justice system, and also reduce the harms that come from the criminal justice system. The Crime Lab is based at the Public Policy School at the University of Chicago. So that's the Harris School of Public Policy. And we have a staff of about 100. We have faculty who manage research projects, and then a large staff that work in partnership with the public sector and with nonprofits that do a range of tasks, for everything from making sure that the implementation of projects are going well. This is not just a sort of think tank that looks at data in downtown office. What we do is directly partner. And so it requires staff being on the ground in the neighborhoods where we're working, as well as people who are looking at the data to try to help understand the policy implications. And then we also have staff that help to communicate the findings across the country. The University of Chicago Crime Lab is part of the University of Chicago. So the trustees at the university and all of the leadership at the University of Chicago have jurisdiction over our governance. We are an independent research organization, as is, all parts of the University of Chicago. And then we're supported because we work pro bono. We don't do fee for service. We don't charge our government partners or our nonprofit partners any sort of fee for the work that we do. We compete for research grants across the federal government, so Department of Justice, National Institutes of Health, Department of Education, as well as seek funding from philanthropy, so local and national foundations, as well as a handful of individual donors who support our work. Over the last couple of years, cities across our nation have experienced a huge surge in gun violence. At the same time, there's a crisis in confidence that government can solve problems like gun violence. And so we decided to take a step back and identify ways that we could contribute to this existential crisis facing our country. And we identified the fact that you have community violence intervention organizations, as well as police leaders really on the front lines of that crisis. And yet we do very little to help train them and develop leaders to manage those really urgent challenges in our country. And so as a teaching institution and a research university that has worked on community violence as well as on policing issues, we felt like we could offer world-class training and management and leadership for both community violence organization leaders as well as mid-level managers in police departments to try to improve both the impact on gun violence, but also increase the fairness and justice that communities are demanding across our country. And so the vision for the Community Safety Leadership Academy is to work with cities across the country, with their community violence organizations and mid-level leaders in police departments in a 6 to 9 month training that will be partly in person and partly remote, and for us to really carefully measure the impact that those human capital investments in management and leadership can have on the outcomes that communities are so desperately asking for and demanding across our country.